What is up, my fellow gamers? In today's video, we are going over the best characters to use for the battle mods in the very first world you face as a new player, and that's going to be the green world. First one, Double Trouble. So Double Trouble is going to double the characters that appear from the chest. When you have this battle mod, the best character you can get is going to be Goblin. A lot of these, the Goblin is absolutely insane. I think some new players may underestimate the Goblin, but me personally, I think the Goblin is honestly like an S tier. He can get you so much value. It's a free body on the board. He does good damage and he just gives you free coins. The next one we got is the Loot Goblin Rush. You're gonna have these goblins and they're gonna be moving around, and that is the key word. These loot goblins, they don't just stand still, they move around. And also the other important thing to mention is they all spawn in the middle where the gem mine spawns, and then they kind of disperse throughout the map, kind of just running around. So this is important to note because you want to have a very strong start when you have the Loot Goblin Rush going on, so that way you can make your way to the middle and then you can get like the spawn of all of them, and then you can hit like 4 and 5 of those Loot Goblins really quickly, and you can get tons and tons of coins and gems. Other thing to take note is, do not go ahead and start chasing the goblins. That is one thing that new players are going to make the mistake on, is trying to chase the loot goblins. Do not chase them. Let them naturally come to you. They're going to be running around, and most of the time they're going to end up crossing your path. And if you're moving, you're not attacking. So you really need to be disciplined and stay still and kind of let them come into the circle where your characters will attack. For the Loot Goblin Rush, I highly recommend you start building your team fast with high damage dealers. Next one we got is the Pinata Party. Now this is kind of like the same thing for the Loot Goblin Rush. The only difference is the loot goblins are running around, the pinatas aren't. They just kind of, they appear, they pop up, and that's it. They don't move around. So with the pinata party, you actually want to look for speed. So now you're going to be looking for Hog Rider. Now you're going to be looking for the chicken to give you those boots to really run around the map and take down those pinatas as fast as possible, as well as damage dealers and your typical, like, you should at least have one tank all the time. Next one we got is the Turbo Overload. For Turbo Overload, there's going to be boots everywhere. You don't need to worry about getting the chicken. You don't really necessarily need to worry about getting Hog Rider, but he's still good. Hog Rider like gives you the speed boost when you're moving through the bushes, but he's also a good damage dealer and he's tanky. So for that one, I mean, I think Hog Rider is good either way. You can't really go wrong with it, but definitely I would say avoid the chicken for the Turbo Overload because you're already going to have tons of boots. A good player is going to utilize the fact that having tons of boots means you're going to be able to activate that attack speed increase constantly when attacking enemies. So you really got to be careful because Turbo Overload basically speeds up the entire game. Everyone's going to be running around faster because there's boots all over the place, and people are going to be attacking faster, which means you need to be careful of those quick squad busts. So very important to have a tank early on, especially for Turbo Overload, because otherwise if you don't have a tank and you go with like a Goblin or Greg or someone who's a little bit weaker trying to do some quick supplying, a good player will notice that if they got a good damage dealer like some Colts or a Hog Rider, they'll run over quick and they will burst you down with those turbo boots. Next one we got is the Tree Giants. Gem-filled Tree Giants are roaming the map. Now these two Tree Giants, they spawn in the middle, one on each side of where the gem mine spawns. They're basically boss monsters, but they have huge health pool, and when you go ahead and you do destroy them, they drop tons of gems. I mean, like tons and tons of gems really can swing the tide of a battle and bring you from like, you know, one of the lower positions all the way into the top position. For Tree Overload, you really want to build your team as fast as possible and get to that middle. Can be dangerous if you don't utilize your suppliers early on and you don't build a squad up fast enough. If you can build a squad up really fast, most people, they won't even be into the middle. They kind of like, especially new players, they tend to stay in the little corner or the little area that they start in, and they don't really venture out into the middle too early on. A lot of people aren't in the middle until like the last minute and a half. If you can go ahead and you can get a solid team really quick, I'm saying like within the first like 45, 50 seconds, you can get some good damage dealers. You can get Greg, some goblins. You can go into the middle and you can take out one of those trees like fairly easy, but you have to be careful because other thing to mention is good players will, what I'm calling third party you. You trying to take down one of these trees, they may kind of like run by and just like get a peek and see your progression. And then when you're kind of like getting really close to destroying the tree, they might come in and try and attack you or try and come in and steal some of those gems when the trees explode and get destroyed. And then there's just gems all over. They try and like steal your gems and stuff. So that's why it's very important to establish your squad early. When it comes to spell overload, spells are popping up everywhere. For this one, you want to be quick, so you want to have chicken, you want to have hog rider, and what I like to do is spam my spells, specifically the cannon. What I do is I go ahead and I specifically look for the cannon spell laying around. I'll run to it, I'll grab it, and I'll just immediately use it and launch a cannon. So that way I basically set up my own defense. And let me tell you something, if you have a bunch of cannons laying around, it is insanely strong. You're pretty much just going ahead and sectioning off parts of the map for your own defense. And the cannons, they're so amazing because they not only attack the enemy PvP players, it also draws attention to them, but also your own cannons, they can attack those PvE monsters that spawn up. So then you have extra damage. Like the cannons are literally, I would say, one of the best spells in the game. And when you have this spell overload, look for those and then just launch them, right? Like don't sit there and hold them. When you have the spell overload, you want to be constantly using all the spells because they're everywhere. So pick up a spell, use it. Pick up a spell, use it. One bonus tip I have for you, which I think a lot of players don't know, is when you grab that bomb spell, if you don't have Greg, you can actually use the bomb spell to blow up the trees, and then you can get all the resources from the trees. So for this one, this is a great instance where you don't really need Greg because there's going to be spells everywhere, and you can constantly pick up that bomb spell, throw it at a tree, the tree will get destroyed from the bomb, and then you can get all the resources. I do that all the time where I'm just like picking it up, and if you have two trees nearby, you can launch one of those bomb spells right in between them, and you'll take out both trees instantly. So much faster than if you had Greg and he had to do a bunch of chops on the trees. Next one we got is gem overload. Pretty much you just want to have good suppliers, have a good start. There's nothing specifically like different about this one. And then the last one we got is the fusion start. Start with a fusion. By far the best for this is gonna be the goblin. So what it does is you go ahead and whatever character you pick, it's gonna spawn 3 of them, and then it's gonna put them together and make a fusion. So if you pick the goblin, you're basically picking the goblin 3 times, and then it's gonna fuse them. You get so many coins at the beginning, it's insane. And at that point, if you do start off with the goblin on a fusion start, you should then immediately just start running to the chests. So because I mean, you're gonna have like 30 coins, or you're gonna have like a ridiculous amount of coins right at the beginning with this strategy. So just run to the chest. Don't worry about attacking enemies. Don't worry about boxes. Don't worry about anything else. You should immediately just start running from chest to chest, opening them up and building out your team. That is it. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed the video. Stay happy, stay safe. I'll see y'all later. Peace.